Welcome to the Sport Exchange with me, John Robbie. Hi guys, welcome to the Sport Exchange podcast where we meet sporting personalities and learn about their lives and their life stories. Today, the Sport Exchange podcast meets a sporting legend. In 2011, she became the all-time leading goal scorer in women's hockey, and she retired with a record of 287 goals in 289 matches. Unbelievable. Welcome, hockey legend Pietie Coetzee. Pietie, thanks for coming in. Morning to you.
Thank you, John. Yes, good morning.
Do you miss it?
I miss aspects of it. Sometimes I miss the travel a bit, seeing different parts of the world.
Yeah.
But mostly the preparation and amount of training that goes into it, no, I don't really miss it. I think after repeating that kind of routine daily, it just becomes time to call it a day. So I was quite happy with the retirement time, and I'm very happy with where I'm at now.
Was it a quick decision, or did you think about it for a long time? Tell us about the process of deciding to hang up your boots and stick.
So there were two retirements basically for me. One was in the middle of my career. After playing international hockey for 10 years, I took a 5-year sabbatical or a retirement, and then came back and played another 5 years towards the end. It wasn't such a long decision. I think it just became very evident that, you know, that second part of the career was completely filled now, and I did what I wanted to do in it. That was also the passage where I broke the world record. So there were a lot of goals that I'd set that I achieved in that last part of the career. So I was very happy to call it a day by then.
Tell us about the goal in Dublin. I think 5-5 against, who was it, the United States? And I mean, tell us about that moment. I think you scored 4 goals in that game, didn't you?
I scored 3 goals.
3 goals, sorry.
Yes.
I'm exaggerating.
I don't mind that. No, so that particular match, we had a very good tournament. South Africa, we were top of our log, and they had a strange structure of matches that we needed to go into a quarterfinal and win that, which placed us into the next round. And if you don't win a game, basically you're out, even though we were top of our log. So it was a very successful tournament for us until a crucial game that we played against Spain. But to get back to the United States game, we played a 4-4, was it 4? It was a 5-5.
5-5, I think,
game. And I knew that I was 3 goals away from, basically I was 2 goals away from the world record. So even in that tournament, I was very deliberately chasing the world record by then. And I tried to be very selfish in my play and try and knock off those goals as quickly as possible. So, yes, the first goal was a deflection goal. It was one that was right in front of the goalkeeper. I remember it like yesterday, little touch on it. Lucky touch, I would say, but, you know, as a striker, I'm never going to say no to those. And the second one was a field goal that was a breakaway, and we had to do it at speed. And I still remember very clearly running straight through the middle of the field, and nobody was tracking me. It was just unbelievable. It was as if they knew what was going to happen. Somebody stepped to, I think it was Taryn Bright on the left-hand side, to close her down, and that freed me up to receive the ball top of the circle. And I only had to knock it in on the side past the goalkeeper. And that's what happened. That was the equaling of the world record, so that was very exciting. And in that game as well, I scored a drag flick just to go past the world record.
That was Natalia Krasnikova, is that right? The Russian.
Yes.
And did you know her? Was there a competition with her or whatever?
No, not at all. She stopped, I think, playing in the 80s.
Ah, right. So she's oh gosh, yeah.
I don't know her. I've never met her. This was just presented to me by my coach at the time to tell me, did I know that there was this world record and this was the figure, the number that I could be chasing. And he wrote it down on a little piece of paper for me.
Yeah.
And I kept that paper on me all the time in my stick bag and kind of just went for it.
And what does it feel like? I mean, is anyone close to you at this stage? Are you still the record holder?
I'm still the record holder. Margie Pouwman from the Netherlands, a very phenomenal player, a really good player, has just retired from international hockey, and she was chasing that record. I'm not too sure what she ended up on, but I did start thinking to myself, I'm starting to get a little bit nervous. She was over 200, that I know for sure. And she's an incredible player. So I had no doubt that if she had to continue, she would get there. But she's retired now. So
Does it make you feel a little bit angry that despite the fact that you are the world record holder in an Olympic sport, a huge sport all over the world for particularly girls, but also for, for men as well, and yet, without being unkind, if you walk down the street, a lot of people would never notice you. If it was rugby or soccer or cricket, you'd be surrounded with people. What does that make you feel like?
Yes, definitely. All the words you mentioned: disappointed, sad, aggressive at times. Just can't believe. Why does it have to be like this? Why is it that we are struggling as women to get to a certain level where it's far easier? I mean, I think a provincial, for me in particular, it's more about the fact that I couldn't make a career out of it. It had to be a hobby. Of course, I feel like I trained as if it was my career. I felt I was a professional. I spent hours and hours doing it. I followed all the programs. I played abroad. I tried to be the best that I can be in the world at it. And yet there's zero financial reward for it. So that is just where I always felt is the most disappointing thing. Whereas if you look at a provincial cricketer in our country, provincial rugby player, Currie Cup, probably even lower levels than that.
Club players get paid, yeah.
Club players, you'll get paid to do it. And you have absolutely nothing like that in hockey.
Why do you think that is? Is it because, here's my theory, I'm going to jump in, because I've become a late convert to hockey, as you know. And when I was on the radio, I just felt that the hockey players got the worst deal ever and actually became a little bit of a Bible thumper for hockey and went to some of the games and so on. And watching hockey live, it is an unbelievable game. And yet watching it on television is like watching paint dry. Do you think that's one of the reasons? It's a bit like squash.
Yes, it could be one of the reasons. Of course, now I know that there needs to be, for it to be an entertainment value, that's where the money comes from, it needs to be something that people want to see. Now, what is it going to be that makes people watch it? You rightly say, live it's much better than on television.
You can't see the ball on television, that's the problem.
You can't see the whole picture. So it is so strategic and extremely skillful, which I think gets lost on television. It's the same with probably many other sports, the same thing. But why is it not taking off? I think there's a lot of it can take off. I still believe it can become something massive, because I've seen now in the world how it's become something much, much bigger. The European Hockey League has taken off tremendously, and those guys are, fully professional now. It's the same with the Indian League also. So it is possible, but it needs to be broadcasted in that way, but also your public is already educated in it, and they know what to look out for, and even if they then watch it on television, they appreciate it so much more than uneducated population, I would say.
And also, of course, SASCOC and the Olympic Games, where we qualify through Africa. In other words, we've qualified for the Olympics, and they say it's not good enough. So we have our Olympic body preventing our hockey players going to the Olympics, whereas one would think their job is to get us to the Olympics. What sort of a blow is that?
It's massive. I mean, you can't explain that. How do you explain that to a sportsman? To say, this is your ultimate competition to go to. You have to qualify for that. We qualify. And then the body says you can't go. Why? Explain to us why they cannot send us. That's the most frustrating thing as a sportsman, where you put all your time, and those people, I believe at SASCOC, they do not know what players go through to try and get themselves there. The unpaid part, the sacrifice in terms of time, they have no idea.
Tell us more about that. When you were absolutely at your peak, playing for South Africa, the South African ladies hockey team, tell us about your week. I mean, building up to a competition. What did you do in terms of hockey? What did you do in terms of work? How did you finance things? And, for you in particular and in general for other girls.
Okay. there's different phases of career. So let's just talk about my last 5 years, which was the prime for me.
Yeah, we'll talk about your first career later, yeah.
Okay, so that was the best part of my career because we had a massive sponsorship from Investec.
Investec, yeah.
And that meant that players did not have to pay to go on tour, which all I then needed to worry about is how do I pay my rent and my cell phone bill, etc. My absolute essentials. The rest of the time that I'm away with the national team is taken care of. I didn't have to dig into my own finances to do that. At that stage, I was also not a student anymore, so I didn't have to worry about studying. The only thing I needed to do is make sure that sort of basic necessities are covered. So the day, what I would then do is I basically said it's an Olympic year. There's 7 months leading into this major competition, so I'm going to put all my energy towards it. If I find work that allows me to still do 4 hours of training, 4 to 5 hours of training a day.
4 to 5 hours training a day as an amateur?
Yes.
Wow, yeah.
If I can find work doing that, then I'll take that job. If I can't find it, then I won't work. Because I know that that's kind of the sacrifice and the time that it will take to get me there.
So what happened?
I started my own business. And I made sure that the business is flexible enough for me to book jobs in and around my training time. And also the time that I am here in South Africa or not with the national team. So also remember, we have in a 4-week month, at the peak time, you're away from, let's say, your home 3 weeks out of the 4, traveling with the national team or preparing or being in camp situation that you're just training. Then you've got 1 week a month that you're free to kind of catch up on odd jobs that you would have booked.
On life, catch up on life,
yes.
yeah.
Get back to your house, just back to sort of normality in that 7 to 8 month period leading into the Olympic Games.
Did any of the girls crack? Did any of the girls say, look, I just simply cannot do it. I'd like to do it, but I can't?
Yes. Yeah, there are definitely a few. They won't say it in those words, but they fall off the pace and then they excluded from the team. But there definitely are.
And no attempts made to say, look, we'll help you with a job. We'll, companies that the CEO is a hockey fan, whatever. Is there a network in hockey that tried to make this system work, this crazy system work?
Not that I'm aware of. I think a lot of people, particularly the management in the national team and setup, knows when people are under pressure for whatever reason. It gets discarded because how do you start with one player looking after them in a certain way? If it's then you would probably have to look after everybody that way, and it becomes too much. I think that's how it's seen. What should be done is, let's say you do have a major sponsor. Someone should oversee that sponsorship to say, right, we are investing so many million into our team. What's the well-being of our players? What are they like? Are they looked after? Who needs what financially? Can we offer this one a job this many hours a week? There's many ways of managing this whole process, which I think we are definitely failing our amateur teams.
And did you have a say, or like most sports people, you're just so lucky to be there that you keep your mouth shut and keep your head down?
It's more a case of when the going gets tough, you know that you're going to be one of those surviving there. And that's kind of the attitude I always had. I knew that people are going to crack, but as long as it's not me, because I want to be at the Olympic Games and I want to be the best player that's there. So if it's whatever it's going to take, I'll make that work.
Tell us about the Olympics. I mean, we've had people saying it's been the greatest experience of their life, and we've had other people saying they were so disappointed by the Olympics because of the way it was organized, perhaps by the South African organization, whatever. You went to 3 Olympics, I think, didn't you?
Yes, I went to 3, missed one in the middle of the break period, but yes, 3 Olympic Games.
What are your memories?
Yeah, so my very first experience, Sydney 2000, was just jaw-dropping awesome. It is massive. It's nothing, you cannot prepare for it. You get there and it is just unbelievable, the magnitude of it.
Some say that was the best Olympics ever.
Yes, I agree. From the 3 that I went to, that was definitely my best experience as well. But you use the Olympic Games, the first one, to go and experience what it's like and see all of this. It's almost like being a freshman at school or university. That first year. Then the second year, or the second time you go, now you know what it's like. And
which was that? Which was your second?
For me, that was Athens.
Athens, yeah.
It's not as impressive anymore. You know how everything runs now, and it's going to be massive, and it's incredible. You've taken photos at the first one. You know what the dining room looks like. You know, they all look the same. Now, I wanted to go, and I know the team as well, you wanted to go and perform there, because it is the greatest stage. There's a few things worse for a sportsman to just arrive and play, because we are competitive by nature. We want to win. So the second one, I wanted to go and, be the best. And that's where I think the greatest disappointment comes in, is that we, as South Africans, for sure, not prepared to the level we should be at the Olympic Games.
So you feel as a result you underperformed?
Completely underperformed. And by the third one, I already know what are the things that's going to make me not perform well. But it's out of your control, I felt, to change those things, to make me perform better. So London it was, and I could see the whole pictures replaying from all the previous experiences of why we're not going to perform, because you cannot perform under these circumstances.
So we didn't learn?
We don't learn. We never learn. We just repeat the cycle of failure. And I think it's starting to show in general in most of our sports in this country, and that's my personal opinion, that we don't take lessons forward and implement it and have that complete high performance mindset and performance. We go back into a cycle every 4 years. We run all the way down to the bottom, and then we climb that hill again, and we get to the top, and we're surprised that we're never going to win an Olympic medal.
Is it true we are the highest ranked amateur team in the world, hockey? Somebody said that to me, in fact, men and women, that, when people say, oh, we lost 6-0 to the Netherlands or something, and somebody said that, but you've got to understand, they're full-time professionals, and we are amateurs trying to play against professionals. Is that true?
Not anymore. It was the case, I would say, 2 years ago. And now you see a lot of amateur teams coming through. For example, in the women, Italy, Ireland have had a phenomenal
Yes, they
World
have,
Cup.
yeah.
Spain, even. So there's lots of amateur teams coming who I think has got less resources than us at the moment, overtaking us.
And is anyone listening?
I hope so, but I'm not too optimistic anymore. I think, John, as soon as you have to be realistic, when you see this process repeating itself for the 3rd, 4th, 5th time, then you got to think to yourself, how is it that we're going to, fix this? I don't see the change. So
and are you tempted to get involved? Are you tempted to be a committee lady, to get involved, to work your way up? I mean, we'll talk about what you're doing now in hockey, but could you fix the situation there?
We've had a players' association started, for example, a few months back by our very own Marsha Marisha, or Marsha Cox now.
Fabulous
player. And it was
player,
it's just a passionate group that was started by her, and she created this group by all the ex-players basically in her network to see what ideas can we come up to try and assist the current players, firstly, to help them out of the situation that they're in. Were we effective? I would say no, we were not, because that kind of change has not been seen yet. But I think it's important from where we are now that at least the seeds are planted in the current players to say, guys, look out for this, ask that question, make sure this is in line so that we don't go through that same cycle. To answer your question, am I prepared to get involved? I am 100% prepared to get involved. It's just, I would say, the right capacity, because what I've also learned for myself is that looking after myself needs to come first now. In other words, how do I make a living? If I can assist somebody after looking after myself, then I'm happy to do so. So I see myself, let's say, in the national structure, currently. I would love to have like an assistant role or
a mentoring role, something like that, where you could use your experience.
Exactly. I would love to do something like that. Also, being direct in contact with the players on whatever capacity, to see if my lessons can give them something in the future. That would be fantastic. Well, I use that a bit at the moment at the university.
Yes,
I coach Wits ladies first team, so I use a lot of that there. But not all of those ladies are going to go all the way into the national and world stage. But it certainly is something I focus on.
Are you a good coach? Because a lot of the greatest players make the worst coaches because they cannot understand that people are not as talented as they were. You know what I mean? Are you a good coach? There's a direct question. I want an honest answer.
I think I'm a very good coach.
Yeah. What's the secret of being a good coach?
Being flexible. Number one thing for me, flexible. Now, I say that with a pinch of salt, because if you ask my players, they're going to say I'm very rigid and I don't give them a...
Yes.
But what I mean by flexible is my ability to learn and adapt to what the situation is in front of me and what I'm coaching. So I have as much joy, for example, coaching an under 8 group of players. And I can get so much out of them. Yeah. The same with coaching senior provincial level and above. I think it's, that kind of the core that I have with players, I think is really good.
Were you a brilliant hockey player? Are you born with a God-given talent, or is it something you worked at? Look at yourself. I mean, I know you were thinking of becoming a swimmer. I mean, it was almost a choice between the two, wasn't it? Yes. Tell us a little bit about that decision, and then answer my question.
Okay. Swimming was my number one sport, and I did that very diligently until I was 14, 15. My time started to plateau a bit, and I saw when I was...
What was your distance and discipline?
I did a breaststroke 100 meters. I also did a bit of freestyle. I was a bit of everything. Individual medley was also a big one. And I started seeing a huge and a fast acceleration in my hockey career, which was mainly my winter sport, just playing a few months every year. But when I turned 15, I could see I already made as a 15-year-old, the under 18 South African B team. And the very next year, the A team. So there was a huge and a fast acceleration. And I thought to myself, it just feels like hockey is more natural for me. What about if I invest all my time that I've put into swimming every day? I do that for a year in hockey and just see what happens. And within that year, I made the senior national women's team.
Youngest ever, I think, weren't you?
Yeah. At 16.
What was that like? Who's your debut against? Tell us, take us back. Take us back. I won't ask you the year.
Okay, no. You're going to have to repeat the first question.
Yeah.
I think I got lucky. I always say to people, I think the selectors were a bit desperate at the time. It was in that era where a lot of the older players have been hanging around for many, many years through the apartheid era.
Yes.
They played, and then all of a sudden a new coach came in. And he had the philosophy that everybody had to be new and fresh. So he didn't change everybody, but he had a look at me, and I made the national team at that young age. We went to America, to Atlanta, and we played in a pre-Olympic... Atlanta was going to be 1996, the Olympic Games. So 95, we played in the pre-Olympic Games tournament.
Right.
And my debut was against Spain in the first game. I cannot remember a single thing.
No.
I just remember it was very, very hot, extremely humid. How much playing time I got, I can't even tell you. I do remember a later game there against Australia, but that first bit for me was very vague.
And what was your first of the 289 goals? Do you remember that?
No.
You're kidding.
No, I don't. I don't remember that.
My question was, were you a born hockey player? Tell us about the talent that was God-given, and then the work you had to put in on the other parts.
Okay, so I think the God-given part was the love for ball sports or just the coordination part. I think that is natural, and thank goodness is there. The other God-given part is the tenacity, the drive and the competitiveness to try and always be the best at whatever I do. I still believe that it didn't matter how much talent I had. The fact that I always wanted to be better And that's a characteristic. That is what really accelerated me in hockey.
And goal scoring. I mean, I know in soccer they talk about a predatory instinct. And I saw your eyes light up when you talked through the goals you scored against the USA when you broke the record. What makes a real striker?
A real striker, in my opinion, is someone with a bit of selfish nose for the goal. Your first thought process should never be to pass the ball. And I think that's what I had. I always believed that I can do it. Don't worry about passing it to the far post to anybody. There are some memories even now that I have of a tournament we played in Harare, Zimbabwe. We needed to qualify for the World Cup. And it was our first major tournament on the international stage with a new coach, Boudewijn Kastelein, at the time. And I remember this clearly because we did a video analysis and my two players on the outside post said to me they knew beforehand that I was never going to pass the ball. They were there ready, sticks down, but I wasn't going to pass it. I was just going to try and smash it past the goalkeeper. Luckily successful. Yeah. Because if I'd missed, I would have got flack for that. But I think a real striker has got that sort of drive to, in under all circumstances, go for goal rather than another option.
I was lucky enough to play rugby with and against Ray Morton, Dani Gerber. And if they didn't score in a game, you could see them getting grumpier and grumpier and grumpier and more annoyed with themselves.
Yeah, determined.
And then once they got their try, then you could see them relax. Were you a bit like that?
Definitely. And my focus was always to score very early. I really had so it was a big thing for me. I needed to be good enough to start on the field as well. If I start on the field, it gives me the opportunity to score in the first 7 minutes. So my intensity in the first 7 minutes was always top notch because I knew after that there's a chance that I would get rotated out for a rest. But the first 7 minutes, my pressure that I would put, and luckily in hockey, they have this habit to pass the ball back at the start of the game. So I'd pass it back to a defender and I'd run as hard as I can to get to the deepest defender and try and put it under pressure to win the ball off her. And if
Right from the start.
Right from the start. And if I don't win it, the pressure would have been enough for the rest of the team to step up and from that bad pass would get the ball. And who's at the top of the D after the pressure would be me.
Yeah.
So please pass me the ball once we've gained it in the first few minutes. And then that's my first go at goal.
What's the best goal you ever scored?
It was an intercept goal. It was one I dreamt about for many years. We don't have possession of the ball. The ball is passed between the backs of the opposing team.
Which is done quite a lot in hockey. It's almost a hold and hold and hold. Yes.
Yeah. And so this game and this goal was in India. We played against the Ukraine. We had to qualify for the second time and get to the Olympic Games in London. And I could see it was a sideline hit out. And I set up myself in a press in this sort of central position. And I could see the ball was going to go to the left half. And from the left half, she was going to cross it over to the right half. So I timed my run. And right in front of the nose of the goalkeeper, I just dived. So I had no possession of the ball. The ball came across the face of the goal, and I deflected it in front of the goalkeeper.
And what was it? How do you feel when a wonder goal like that goes in?
It was insane. Like, I could not believe that that's the kind of goal I dreamt about for so many years. And look at it. It was placed in front of me like a platter. It couldn't have been executed more. I watched it on video. I can't tell you how many thousands of times afterwards, and I can't believe how perfectly it was placed in front of me. And also the fact that I did not hesitate. I'm not a very big diver in front of the goal. I was always more upright, hit hard. That's more my strength. Diving and tip-ins, not so much. Far post work, not at all, because I'm too scared. People hit the ball at you, and then you got to face it. If it goes wrong, you're going to get it.
Pietie Coetzee was scared. I don't believe it. Yeah.
Also, definitely no penalty corner defense for me. I was only the one who's going to dish it out.
Yeah.
So I couldn't believe that ball came in front perfectly. Dived. I'm not a big diver, like I said. I closed my eyes on the moment of contact with the ball, but it went in perfectly. And it even had a little lift over the goalkeeper's sort of knee to get in.
You're a big girl. I mean that in the nicest possible way. I mean, you're statuesque. You're bigger than most hockey players. Was that an advantage or a disadvantage?
I believe it was an advantage because I used my strength, obviously, to create a lot of space in tight situations for me to work in a circle, again, scoring related. And I mastered the drag flick, which was a physically very demanding skill to be able to.
And that's a relatively recent thing in hockey, isn't it? I mean, relatively recent.
Well, relatively. Now it's become a very common thing. If you don't have it in the team, of course, you're probably not looking at a world-beating team. Everybody has it now. But it was, especially in the women's game, it took much longer to develop than in the men's game.
Tell us about going to play in Holland. You went twice, didn't you?
Yes. So I went straight after school. I wanted to get there as quickly as possible. Not only that, by then it was a bit of an unknown factor. I spoke to a girl from New Zealand. She'd just been to Amsterdam. And then we got a national coach in that was Dutch. And he got me the contact in Amsterdam, playing at Amsterdam Hockey Club. So I went there as an 18-year-old. And that's where my Dutch experience started. I was there for 2 years.
What was it like?
It was just mind-blowing. I could not believe what was going on. Never mind that. The fact that I went there, in those days, I didn't have a cell phone going over there. That's how long ago. 1996, 97 actually, was my first season there. I had to write faxes back to my folks to say, and I still remember going to my coach's house on a Monday to collect my fax from my parents. And so it was a completely different ball game. I think now when I look back, I couldn't believe how brave I was just to...
Were you paid?
No ways.
Not at all. So it was just to further your love of hockey?
Oh, yes. And when I got there, I picked up odd jobs like house cleaning and babysitting and coaching the youth at the club. Yeah.
That's incredible. The first retirement, tell us about that. You did emergency medicine, is that right?
Yes.
Were you intending to retire for good and then get involved in
Yes.
a career? Tell us about the thought process there. What was going through your mind at that time?
So I retired with the main aim to pick a career that's not sports related, hence the emergency medicine.
Why?
I felt at the time that there's no money for me in sport. I didn't see a way forward in any kind of career in sport. I couldn't picture it. So I wanted something that was completely unrelated, and that's where the emergency medicine study started. So I was going to study that, finish it, and then work in that industry and have nothing to do with sport again.
What's that, like a paramedic?
Yes.
Gee whiz. I mean, I suppose having put a few people in hospital with your cannonballs, you must
never. I always try to miss them.
And tell us about that. I mean, the decision to how far down that road did you go, and then the decision to come back to hockey.
So I went all the way. The study is a 4-year degree, and I got into the 4th year, where that was the time. So I was in my 4th year, which is the final year, but it was my 5th year of study. So one of the years I failed one of my major subjects, so hence the 5th year of the 4-year study. And the study was phenomenal. It was really extremely stimulating. It's very much hard work.
Where did you study?
At UJ.
UJ, yeah. Rao then, I suppose, was it?
Yes, they have an honours degree in emergency medicine or paramedics. So it was really something that was extremely stimulating, and of course, emergency work is hard grafts.
Yes,
shift work.
It's got to be a vocation. You can't go into that unless you have a genuine love for it. Otherwise,
Absolutely.
It would be a nightmare.
Yeah.
I could never do it.
No, you really need to know what you're getting yourself into, and I think probably a lot of people don't. I would imagine. I know definitely some of my colleagues, you don't know until you start the work that this is the requirement.
And did you do practical work? Did you go
Yes.
out dealing with emergencies?
Oh, yes.
Did you save lives?
Tried, yes, definitely. You work under mentorship even from year one. You're always with a qualified paramedic already, and you work on the response cars, and you work in the ambulances. You do basically everything.
And what's it like going to your first car crash?
To
me that would be the night. I can't even look. You see
yeah.
an accident.
Yes.
I don't watch. I cannot imagine going and seeing the trauma and the drama and the blood and whatever.
So that's probably one of the hardest parts of this job is you see all these things. Initially, it's exciting because you want to use your skills to help people. Eventually, you realize that it's really taxing. Mentally, it really gets to you, because every single call that I ever went to, I can remember in detail.
So you can't remember your first goal in international hockey, and you can remember every call. I find
100%.
that fascinating.
Yes.
Eh?
There's no real debrief system in our industry, as well as paramedics or emergency medicine. So what do you do, for example, after you've had dealt with a dead person or somebody who didn't make it, or
dead child?
Exactly.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that? There's no real debrief, counseling. Other countries, when they've had an incident like that, they would have to take 2 weeks off work, and in this country that doesn't exist. So it's really taxing for people working in that industry.
Do you miss it?
Again, I miss parts of it.
And the teamwork is great,
yes,
isn't it?
Yeah, the teamwork is great. The intensity of the work is unbelievable. And I think when you get it right, it's an extremely rewarding situation.
My brother-in-law is an emergency worker in Dublin, in Ireland, and he says humour has a lot to do with it. There's sort of gallows humour that amongst the people when they're on their own. I mean, he won't go into details, but I'm sure that comes into it.
Yeah, I think it's important not to go into details, because it's definitely a coping mechanism.
Yeah.
It's also something that can be taken too far, and you don't realize it. For us, it was normal in the industry. But when you speak to people outside, they can't believe how we use the humor to try and deal with situations.
Fantastic. And coming back to hockey, tell us about that.
So in that final year, we again had a change of coach. It was then Giles Bonnet who came into the South African setup.
He did a lot, didn't he?
He did a tremendous amount. He was also the coach that I learned the most from. He was almost life-changing in my career, but not as necessarily as a hockey player alone, but as a person.
In what way?
In a way of, he showed me how things should be possible, or how it can be possible. So his mentality was always, he knows there is a problem, but this is how we can get over that problem.
In life and in hockey.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let me show you what's possible.
Yeah.
Things that you don't even consider. And one example was for paramedics that year, I had final exams to write. Yet he got me a professional contract, first professional contract in Holland, to go play back there professionally. And he negotiated in my contract for me that I could fly back during exams for 3 or 4 days.
Wow.
4 or 5 times. And that was, I couldn't believe that that's even a possibility.
But this is the sort of attention to detail and care that is needed in sport and in hockey in particular. You alluded to the lack of that early on.
Yes.
So where is he now? What is he doing now?
He's the national coach of the Canadian ladies team. So after he worked with us in South Africa, he then went to China and worked at a provincial setup there. He was very involved with the Chinese national team as well.
And look at the
Beijing.
improvement that they've had, yeah.
And he worked there for a few years, and now he's the national coach of Canada.
Should he be coaching South Africa now, or is that an unfair question?
He should definitely. In my opinion, I may be biased. I don't know. He was definitely the most professional that I ever worked under. And I don't see why he shouldn't be. He should definitely be our national coach.
Or even coaching director, head of whatever they call it, hockey director or something like that. Yeah, no, I was always, as an outsider, an ignorant outsider, I always thought he had something special. Tell us about the other side, business now. You started at PC15. I know you're now coaching at St. David's. You're also coaching at Wits University. Yes. How do you manage your professional life?
So my professional life now is, I'm the director of hockey at St. David's, and that is my main gig. And
that's a school that has suddenly become become relevant in sport, whereas before it didn't. I
love that school. I think I can completely relate to the ethos of the school, and of course I think that's quite important, to work in an environment that you feel comfortable in and it is in line with your mentality and ethos, etc. So that's been a fantastic opportunity for me, and I really love working there. That's where.
How do the boys take to you having a girl coach?
At first they definitely don't take you seriously.
Yeah.
And I think after a session or two, they are completely converted.
Yeah.
That's what I feel now. Even in off season, we're busy with morning sessions, You walk in, they don't take it very seriously until we start training, and then all of a sudden, things change. And by the end, you get a handshake and a thank you, ma'am. So, it's
good.
It's really fun environment to be.
And Wits?
Wits, I coach the ladies' first team, and that's mostly after hours because the students, of course, have to study during the day. Wits also is an institution that's gone from nothing to really achieving.
They've got organised,
sport.
haven't they? Yeah, centrally organised sport. Sport is a part of the university
Absolutely.
now, not an add-on.
Absolutely. It's become far more serious, and you can see the results coming through. So that's a very exciting project as well to be part of. Of course, that's a different level to the boys. It's a bit more high performance. At St. David's, they educate and create an all-round boy that can do everything, and it's not necessarily winning at all cost. In fact, it's not at all. But if we can perform well in hockey, then we've done our job. Then I've done my job at St. David's. At Wits, the students come in. They're very serious about what they do. They know they're there to study, number one. It's always student athletes in that order. So study is number one. And then secondly, we play hockey at the highest level we possibly can while being a full-time student.
And what about PC15? Because obviously you have this business. I presume that then works in the off-season. That's where you kick in that side of things. What do you do in PC15?
So PC15 is a product that I
mean, the name is obviously Pietie Coetzee, and 15 was your number, wasn't it? Yeah.
That's right, yeah. And also PC Penalty Corner. That was my speciality.
Okay, yes.
But yes, it's just it's a fun name that I sort of created for my business. What initially was my main business has become something that I use only in off-season now. And I take it, the main aim is to take it all around the country to places that maybe don't have the financial support to get to bigger cities for education and hockey. So I take a world-class clinic to a rural area. And I also coach on any surface, whether it's grass, gravel or
mud,
astro,
whatever,
whatever they have.
And presumably a lot of that is coaching the coaches as well. People who are keen on hockey but have never perhaps had the chance to play at a top level, coaching them to pass on what you do to the kids as well, so it sustains.
Yes, and also to show them that you can have world-class skills and you can apply those skills in the situation that you find yourself, whether it's grass or whatever situation you find yourself there. It's not an excuse to remain average because of the surroundings that you find yourself in.
Well, I mean, sport all over the world has taken kids from the ghetto, from the gutter, and made them into heroes. That's what sport does, doesn't it?
Absolutely. So I do the traveling. I go there. It saves the participants a lot of money, and we do a world-class clinic for them on their doorstep.
And how much talent is out there?
A tremendous amount. It really, really is. I mean, you know that from all over all sorts of sports. You can look around and you always find the talent. It's just what do we do with it? How do we hone it to become great?
And are you available? I mean, people listening this, how do they Google PC15 presumably, and then arrange for you to come and at certain times, certain places, and do the clinics? I mean, I would have thought that could be a tremendous corporate responsibility program for a business to say, we will arrange so many of your clinics and put them into rural areas, for example. Is that the sort of thing you'd like to do?
I would love to do that. That would be number one. At the moment, it's run literally through a Facebook page and a booking system online, or you just make contact with me on social media. I'm also on Twitter, and say, send me the details, basically. I send them the details and then take it from there.
Do you do individual coaching? If somebody you've got a very promising daughter or son, etc., do you do individual coaching for those people as well?
Yes, I do. That's obviously run more locally from St. David's. But also smaller groups I'm currently with, particularly in the off-season now. We have, for example, a Tuesday evening, 5 to 6. We get a few kids together that are very interested in, not so much the individual part, but then they can also train in small groups, and we focus heavily on improving their skills at all ages.
Fantastic. Now, here's a question from left field. I once played golf with you, and you smashed the golf. I've never seen it. Now, when you look at the money that lady professionals, top ladies make, do you ever say, I should have done that?
I say it daily. daily. When I watch the Nedbank Golf Challenge, I go, I should have played golf. Or I watch Serena Williams, and I think, how is it that I am not the number one in the world in tennis? For that matter. How is it that my fate worked out to be the hockey player and not the tennis player? There's definitely a reason for it, but do I wish that I played tennis? 100% yes.
Get Smarter. Tell us about that.
Get Smarter is a program run through UCT. It's an online education business.
I've heard a lot about this. Apparently it's fantastic.
Yes, I did 2 courses through them, so that's how I know about it.
So tell us exactly what it is. A sportsman, for example, in between training, can go online and learn.
Yes, so the reason I used Get Smarter was, firstly, I did a online marketing course through them. Digital marketing specifically, and I just wanted to know more how to get my PC-15 out there in terms of marketing it online. That's how I chose that course, and it was an 8-week program, and you access it online and you do the whole thing and you get your certificate if you pass.
And what does it cost?
It ranges on courses, because I did a course last year on executive coaching, and it was a little bit more pricey. So I'm assuming that over the years also the prices have increased. It ranges between 10,000 and 15,000 rand per course.
Which compared to a university degree, a university course that you attend is very reasonable.
Well, it's probably it's a fraction of what you would pay per semester at university. I mean, university fees are anything from 60 to 150,000 rand a year now. So it all depends how you want to and how you can structure your education. But for me, who's now postgrad and just want to get more educated on different things, you can pick anything, and there's no requirement of your previous qualifications.
Yes.
If you want to do business, you just pick business. If you want to do marketing, you pick marketing, and you can do the courses online, which is fantastic. It's handy.
What a fantastic Get Smarter. That's what they call it. So advice finally. I mean, I can't believe we've been talking for 40 minutes. Advice for a young hockey player out there who's listening to this and is maybe saying, will I play hockey full time? Will I not play full time? Whatever. What's your advice based on your experience?
My advice would be definitely play hockey full-time. If you can organize your life in such a way to be able to do it full-time, you must do it. It's extremely rewarding. It's an exclusive club to be part of. It's challenging. If you're up for the challenge and you got that drive to do it, definitely do it. You create a network of people that become your friends for life, and that's probably been the highest highlight for me. Everything in my life at the moment, I obviously got through hockey. It's been years and at different levels. So I would do it. My advice, though, because I just told you I'd rather be a tennis player, my advice would be set up your hockey career in a professional way. Try and get as much help and diverse help that you possibly can on all aspects of your hockey career. And I'm not only talking about skill level, I'm talking about, you see, what I also try and always educate my students at WITS about is, WITS is a hockey club. It's club level. So what we give you here is probably going to be that and a little bit more. However, if you want to be a national player, you got to educate yourself on how do you become a national player and what resources do you need around you to get you there. And then the next level is how do you become a world player. And that in itself is also a different package that you need around yourself.
Fantastic. No, great advice. And please, your passion comes through. Get involved somehow at top level, because I think that the potential we have in this country is not being realized. And I think that is, in a way, tragic. So please don't be lost to South African hockey, Pietie.
No, I won't be. I'll be around.
Fantastic. Thanks for talking to us.
Thanks, John.
Wow, what a story from Pietie. Thanks as usual to Slow in the City for hosting us. Follow us on social media or subscribe via your favorite podcast app for updates. See you next time on the Sport Exchange podcast. Cheers from John Robbie.